Keanu just takes this whole category.
Whoa. How I've relished this meeting. The Shadowe Crew Podcast.
And the foursome has returned. We are back together, and you could hear Mr. Chet Maddox back in action. Chet, we missed you last week. We know you were NDA'd out of your mind working on sponsorship deals. But
it's getting crazy.
Good to have you back.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to be back. I enjoyed the cast last time. I put my thoughts in on the chat on the video. It was good. I'm excited, but you know what? I'm here now, so we could do this. We could do this in real time. But I'm excited to be back.
Dr. Brantley, Mr. Storm. We're going to jump right into one of our favorite topics, best of series. Each week, the group talks about the best of, from best lightsabers to swords to guns, etc. And this week, the best fight scenes in cinematic history.
Jeez.
So last week we did spaceships. We ended up, we're not going to spoil anything, but definitely lean Star Wars. But I think this week, best fights, I think it's going to be all over the place. So without further ado, let's jump right into it, gentlemen. Let's throw some nominations out there. And I will say, Chet, Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant does not count. Pro wrestling is out the window. So let's go. Let's get into it.
I mean, I'll just sit this one out. It was Hulk Hogan versus Rocky. No. The best fight scene that I've seen, and I'm taking into account everything you can think of. The choreograph, fighting style, the editing. Is it continuous? Does it break up? Are there weapons involved? Like, just everything that I could think about it, and what would be the hardest fight scene to film. And I would consider that to be a continuous, non-cut fight scene. And this comes into play, and it was a very big deal when this came out. And it's the Marvel's Daredevil, the hallway fight scene. It's the one where it's green and it's a continuous shot of Daredevil like handing people their ass and then him getting his ass handed.
But stolen straight from Old Boy.
Correct.
But
film's better.
Which is probably one of the best fight scenes of all time. I was gonna say the Old Boy like hallway fight scene. But I don't remember the Daredevil. I gotta go back and watch that.
Oh no. That was an awesome scene, man. I will give credit. That was probably one of the better ones of that show. But that was awesome.
But Daredevil did not have a hammer.
No, he did not. No, he did not. All right, I guess I'll go next. This one goes to my heart and everything because it was the same year I was born, 1973's Enter the Dragon. Bruce Lee versus all the underlings underneath the island. That is probably when he goes from martial arts to nunchucks to he displayed every form of the reason why he's probably one of the greatest martial artists that has ever lived. So that's my number one win. Enter the Dragon, 1973 Bruce Lee. Fantastic. If you haven't seen it, it's a must.
Yeah, and at that point in the movie, it turns into like a James Bond movie, right? Where it's underneath and there's the bad guys and they got their own jumpsuits and everything.
Yeah, and there's several great from that one, but I just looked, if you show what was the true form of martial arts excellence, he goes through every weapon, every person, every fight scene, every move. There's no better one in all the films.
One of my favorite films of all time, and a cult classic, has, in my opinion, the most realistic fight scene. Not CGI, not the longest, just if you saw two dudes fighting in an alley, and that's They Live, Roddy Piper, Keith David, epic fight scene. It was literally just so realistic that those two would just get so great. And I think that's part of the reason why that movie is so great too, Is there some cheese or some realism? But I would say that's, in my opinion, one of the top ones. And I think a lot of people haven't seen that movie, but please check that out if you're listening, because I think it's definitely underrated as a film, but also as a fight scene.
I don't know if it's my top, but one of the best, I think, is the Crazy 88 fight in Kill Bill 1.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Because that goes on for a long time. Not quite as long as Helm's Deep, but, that's like 20 minutes or something. But fantastic.
Yeah, that's good. Did you guys ever watch Equilibrium? I think I talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
But like, if you just want like a ridiculous fight scene, Equilibrium, because they use gun kata air quotes. The last fight scene in that movie is fun. It's like fun. I don't think it's the best, but it's fun.
You know what? There was one that I think is underrated because, of course, of the time and age. But it was Sean Connery and Wesley Snipes, Rising Sun, when they have to go to the tower, and it's old versus new, and it's like, Sean Connery put his stuff down in that movie, man. I had to give him credit on it. It's a great action movie, yet there's a detective story in it, but when the fight gets real, it gets real, man.
I thought you were going somewhere else with Sean Connery, which is the train fight in From Russia with Love, when they're in that tiny little room and he's fighting Red, and it's just ow.
I'm gonna go with two Marvel selects here. One, I think you could probably pull a few from the Captain America themed movies, but I do like Iron Man and Captain America going at it. Was pretty awesome to see. Yeah, and then I also liked, it was super short too, but Hulk versus Hulkbuster was pretty badass too. The first time we saw that on the screen was really epic as well. So those are two of my Marvel nominations.
But yeah, I think for me a Marvel nomination was a quick fight, Thor and Captain America fight, and then Thor throws the hammer down onto the Cap shield. You remember that? They're fighting everybody.
That was the Avengers, the first film. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he just like slams a hammer on the shield. It's like, thank God they did that. That was something they did all the time in the comics.
I think we can do the best of Marvel, because if I have to think, it's got to be from the Winter Soldier, Captain America in the elevator with all the SHIELD agents, and he kind of says, "Oh, it's going to go down," and it goes down, man. It goes down. So.
John Wick. In the first one, the nightclub scene, and then I think my favorite out of all of them is in the third one, where they're having the knife fight, and they're throwing knives like snowballs at each other, and that's fantastic.
So good. That's so good.
I mean, do you just put John Wick 1 through 4 as a fight scene?
Yeah, pretty much.
Literally, it's continuous fight scene.
And I found out that in the scenes where you see him like reload the gun and he flings the magazine out and then like loads it with another one, like he made that shit up. And there's a dude that's like a trainer that's like, no, that's like a real way to do it. He just does it faster than anyone I've seen. And I'm like, that's unreal. Like I want to find his HK. I think it's like an HK V9, because I want to practice pulling it back like he does.
They got so many cool characters and fight scenes. I'm like, there's no way they're going to be able to introduce another character or fight sequence that's going to top the previous ones. And then I'm like, is this guy blind? With oh shit! And I'm like, okay, just when I thought they couldn't top themselves, they introduced that badass character. And some cool fight scenes there. So we can't pinpoint a fight there. I think John Wick just it's its own category for fight sequences. Like, so can we just say John Wick in its franchise is in the top 5 fight scenes? Like, are we committing it has a home?
You can almost put it to the Keanu Reeves category, because you've got to think Neo versus Agent Smith in The Matrix. Like how many great films has Keanu Reeves really been a part of? Patrick Swayze and Keanu Reeves in Point Break jumping out of a plane fighting. It's like Keanu Reeves gets his own category, brother.
That's true. That's true.
Speed. In Speed, he gets his one. Yeah.
Okay, podcast over. Keanu Reeves wins, and let's move on to the next topic. I agree. We're gonna take the easy route. We're gonna bundle in Matrix we're gonna bundle in John Wick, all the Keanu Reeves, and that's its own category. John Wick, Keanu Reeves fight scenes for sure. I think we might get some heat with Bruce Lee because we did look at one in particular, but there was a hell of a lot of other great fight sequences. Does Bruce Lee get its own category as well, or do we say because he's definitely up there, right?
Sure.
In terms of the movies and iconic, Kareem, Chuck, like it could go on and on.
Chuck Norris.
Chuck Norris, yeah.
I mean, but also if you're doing him, you might as well do Donnie Yen as well. Two great, two different roles. He's a blind fighter.
It's crazy. I'm surprised we haven't heard Dr. Brantley anything from Indiana Jones.
Well, I was getting there, but I do have to say, I don't think he's going to hold up against these guys in a fight scene, okay?
Oh, no.
Now, the plane fight is fantastic. He does get his ass kicked, but he stays up and, he gives pretty much as he's getting, but he does know when to duck.
Come on,
Sure, we're gonna include any of Jackie Chan, or is that a whole podcast all to itself?
That's another one, right? The Jackie Chan for sure, and his legacy in movies. It almost feels like we're cheating because now we're like the top guys for fight scenes. So we're gonna pump the brakes a bit, and we're not gonna cheat. We definitely have to like anchor to a Bruce Lee fight scene. We're definitely gonna put John Wick in its own category, but does Jackie Chan, one of his sequences, fall into the top 5? We got a few others, and I would say too, what about any of the Rocky fights, right? Like, you don't typically think fight sequences, but that's iconic cinematic boxing fights.
Absolutely.
Apollo, and I make it go on and on, but I think
I don't know.
Some of them may.
It's not Apollo. I think it's either Clubber Lang or Ivan Drago is the best Rocky fight.
I don't know. I could say I think from the Apollo, the Rocky 2, because that was more. The first one is like, you don't really know what you're getting into. The second film, they built it up. And like, look, Apollo Creed has been embarrassed. And now he's got to get back in the ring with this guy who doesn't want to get back in the ring. And it stands up, and he's got one of the classic lines at the end of that film that damn near breaks your heart at the end. So, I say, although I love Cumberland, I love Mr. T, but I got to give Apollo Creed that second bout is a fight, brother.
I mean, dare I say Anakin Obi-Wan?
You dare not say.
I mean,
that's pretty epic.
It's epic.
I don't think there's a lightsaber battle that's better. With two iconic characters.
I would give you probably Return of the Jedi, Luke versus Darth Vader on the Death Star, because the silhouette in black is like one of those things that every time you see it, you're like, wow. Like there's no CGI in that. That's practical effects.
Or the Duel of the Fates in the first one.
That's true.
Double-bladed lightsaber, first time we ever seen that. So I think we'll be going all night. I think we're going to have to do Volume 2, Volume 3, Volume 5 to this.
Well, and this is also another one that I can't let go, and that is Ellen Ripley versus the Alien Queen.
Oh, okay.
She's one of the most badass, I think way more than Sarah Connor, unfortunately for Linda Hamilton. Sigourney Weaver takes that.
Yeah, I think she's probably up there as probably one of the toughest female characters ever to grace the screen. Because every time you see it, something epic is going down. So, absolutely, man.
And also, one of the best lines in cinema, get away from her, you bitch!
True.
What about Bloodsport?
Jean-Claude Van Damme, hey, you love him or hate him, you got to put him in like one of them at least.
You are next.
Or Chet's favorite, Jean-Claude Van Damme fighting the snake.
Yep.
Yeah. Best fight scene ever. How come no one has brought up Roadhouse yet? The bar scene where he goes in and just kicks everyone's ass. Like, come on. Like that's pretty accurate actually. Like a sober dude that knows how to fight just beats up a whole bar.
Inception, the zero gravity fight scene is pretty cool.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that one's good.
Yeah, we have to go. I'm gonna say who's not known for it, but every now and then there's a good one in them. Kurt Russell, Big Trouble in Little China. They're funny, yet I think he mastered the whole Rush Hour kind of thing before they ever did it. And it's just the one where he's in the in that hotel fighting, like, I think it was thunder or something like that, or lightning, and it just comes right. He has this humor to him, but he also had the physique of someone that you knew could actually kind of handle himself. So whenever I think of a fight scene, Kurt Russell pops into the back of my head, man.
We do have Mission Impossible, the bathroom scene with the legendary
Henry Cavill
cocking the fists with Superman himself. That was pretty epic too.
True. There's so many. It's going to be tough to narrow this down.
End of Taken.
No.
When Liam Neeson jumps on the boat and then goes in and just murders people left and right all the way through.
There's got to be a category for Liam Neeson, brother, because I could think of 5 or 6 Liam Neeson films where he did a great job in.
Well, to be fair though, every Liam Neeson film is the same. They just put a different name to it.
True.
But it's all the same. It's all the same shit.
But you've got to give him credit though. He's the most versatile of all action stars. He's been like an ice road trucker, a bodyguard. He's every time you see him, he's a dad. He's done it all.
Well, but Sylvester Stallone was a truck driver and over the top.
But no one's talking about those fight scenes.
No.
What about Troy with Eric Bana and Brad Pitt? The Achilles, the fight scene, it was pretty epic too. I know we're dealing more in the sword battles, but that's a fight scene.
Now you're going back, so we'd have to get into 300.
Oh yeah,
when he just chest kicks the dude into the pit. That is a quick fight scene and to the point.
All right, then if we're going back,
you announce what you are, and you kick the other dude into some endless pit of shit.
If we're going to that, then I got to say Russell Crowe in Gladiator. When he's at, are you being entertained?
Are you not entertained? Yeah,
it's a great scene, brother. Russell Crowe.
Well, if we want to go that far back, then we got to go back to Cobra. With the final fight with Sylvester Stallone.
We knew that was coming. We knew Cobra had to appear.
This is where the law stops, and I start.
I mean, I don't know if you catch on yet, but that Magnum PI.
Next, the best of characters who wore sunglasses.
No.
On the next episode of the Shadowe Crew Podcast.
Atomic Blonde had a pretty good fight in the hall or the stairway.
Oh, yeah,
he was pretty badass.
Yeah,
that was good. What was the Bond? I'm pretty sure it's Sean Connery fighting Jaws in the airplane that turns into like a parachute fight or whatever it was.
No,
Roger Moore.
Which one is that?
Roger Moore.
That was Roger Moore. Yeah,
Roger Moore.
That was a good scene.
Yeah, not too many Roger Moores to be on this one.
No.
Yeah, we could be all night on this category.
So what we have now is John Wick in its own category. So I think we should start. We've thrown a lot into the best of fight universe. So I think it's time to start narrowing down the 5. I think, again, everyone listening, John Wick, The Matrix, in its own Keanu Reeves category, so they're excluded. I think Kill Bill has to be in the top 5. That to me is iconic. The Crazy 88s. Also, you could take a couple of other fight scenes, but I think that one in particular was just like monumental. The way it was filmed, so iconic. Female character. I'm going to say that belongs in the top 5.
But honestly, I think Keanu just takes this whole category.
Whoa.
I also agree with that.
No way.
I think so. I think if you give it to the present mind, yeah, like there hasn't really been too many. You've got to think he's probably the last remaining action star really that's like really taking it beyond. Because Keanu Reeves does not look like an action star. He looks like a regular guy doing action stuff, and I think that's what makes his performances way better than say the Sylvester Stallones and Arnold Schwarzeneggers. And maybe I would say maybe Bruce Willis fits into that Keanu Reeves category because Bruce looks like a regular guy.
What the hell are you doing?
But mostly you got real buff guys and everything. So Keanu Reeves to master that, especially at this age that he's in right now, it's a credit. It's a credit.
So the top 5 fight scenes in cinematic history: Keanu Reeves, Bruce Lee, and Kill Bill. There you have it, folks. We abide by the books, our own rules. Those are our top 5. Are we aligned?
Yeah, I can go with that.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We just want Keanu Reeves on the podcast, so that's why. But I think you make a good point, Dr. Brantley. I think between The Matrix and John Wick, I don't think anybody is even close. And I know Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee, but I think those take the cake for sure. So I think we're all in agreement. Let's segue to some topics we love to talk about, which is the toy world. I know we've all again been on the hunt for the clearance discount special item toys. For those of you listening, Shadow recommends the top finds. So scroll through previous videos, you'll find some of the great deals he's come across, where to find. But Chet, you've come across some interesting deals as of late. Tell the audience.
Yes, I have. Probably one of the least places I expected. And to be completely honest, I have no idea how I've never seen this because I've been into the store multiple times living out in Georgia. It's called Ollie's, Ollies. Their tagline is "Good stuff, cheap." And so the other day I had to go pick something up at Tractor Supply, and Ollie's is next to it. And I decided, I'm gonna run in here and I'm gonna see if I can find anything. And shortly after I was in there, I was blowing Mr. Storm's phone up with all of the shit that I was finding. And I tried to send it in the group message and like pictures weren't going through. And I was just like, whatever. This is insane. Anyways, I landed across so much. Like there was just hundreds of Marvel Legends, like brand new in the box for like $9, $5. A ton of Hasbro G.I. Joes for like $9, $5. I found the last Cobra Hiss tank, which was fantastic. Happy birthday, Alex! That's coming to you. So, and then I got this. I think probably the biggest come up that I got was the Studio Series Transformer the movie Starscream, because as I was taking pictures of it, Mr. Storm was reminding me that was a $45 or $49 item that I had got for $12. and it's like brand new. So now there's this problem of I will be hitting that up at least once, if not twice a week, because there is a lot of things that we saw in there, and I will definitely be back. I have some ideas of what to do with all that stuff. So that does remind me, though, that I did find 2. They are the Sergeant Slaughter Classified series. They had 2 left, and I know that those were a pretty penny. because I heard the yelling from Mr. Storm's phone as he told me he paid full price and I paid like $12 or something for this. So I bought the remaining ones that they had, and I figured, hell, why not? Let's in the next couple podcasts, we're going to announce some giveaways, and we're going to give away some Sergeant Slaughters. So I'm excited about that. We're not sure what that is yet. We'll come up with that idea. But I figure, if we're finding things for cheap, let's pass it on. People
That
like
makes
toys,
sense.
right? So let's buy them when we can and see if we can pass them on. And some other exciting news about toys coming out from us. But that's but yeah. So Ollie's, you can't even buy it online. Like you have to go into the location. And fortunately, there's like 7 by me.
Oh man,
That's awesome.
Wow.
So that's great. Go to Georgia, get a $50 figure for $12. Come to California, pay $7 for a gallon of gasoline. I think in terms of the state comparisons, Chet has won this battle.
Yes,
But
yes.
but we are finding some deals in the state of California. Mr. Storm, have you come across anything in your hunt for select figures?
I did. Shadow and I were out this week because we were doing some things all over he came out where I was, and then I went out to where he was. And he hit up some targets, man. And like there was just coming off of that 50% sale with a lot of the classifieds and figures like that. And he gifted me a crap load of stuff for my birthday, which was awesome. But Target, there was a lot of great deals, a lot of the surplus, like we've been hearing all over from the other toy YouTubers. I think Hasbro just did a huge overstock, and now they're just supplying that to the Olies and all the other places. But I noticed Ross has had some $5.99 figures that we came across. The Crimson Guard figures I saw there. We saw also Tomac and Zaymok. They were over there. We went to Didi's. Shadow came up, so he's got a video coming up because Shadow's been coming up lately. He's been stacking his stuff up. So when people keep asking me how come they haven't seen Shadow the Shadow, there's a bunch of videos that he's about to drop because he's all over the place. In his area where he's down in Long Beach area, it's way better out there hunting than it is out here. And then surprisingly, Walmart has been slashing prices as well. And it's normally this happens around the maybe early November, maybe late October when they started. But we were in there this weekend, and I think it was one out here in the Inland Empire that we went to. And there were a lot. There were McFarlane figures that were slashed. Of course, obviously, there's a bunch of Jurassic Park shells. There's a bunch of Jurassic Park, but we're starting to see all that trickle down right here because I believe that they're putting on the new stocks for Christmas, and a lot of figures are just passing hands now. So, hey, Hasbro's loss is our game, man.
And following up on the Target thing, I would say, I've been searching, I stumbled across a few deals, a couple wrestling figures. Just recently, as of today, walked in, saw an Undertaker Classic Series for marked down to $6. Really great deal. A couple G.I. Joe classified at $10. Here's a trick I think specifically for Target that I've found in a couple of the local places. Make sure you check the end caps and the end caps that are not even associated with the toy aisles. As I ventured down past a couple aisles down where you normally wouldn't look, they had a bunch of loose stuff. Some of it that didn't even have prices on it. And so you may be thinking someone may have left that figure. It doesn't belong in clearance. Take it to the scanner. I was blown away with some of the prices. So I think right now, G.I. Joe, some Transformers stuff, definitely some definitely
Indiana
Funkos.
Jones.
Indiana Jones. There's about 25 Indiana Jones whips if anybody's interested in those for clearance. But I stumbled across a couple cool things. Unfortunately, the Star Wars markdowns go really fast, so they were hard to. The professional pickers and hunters, we try our best, but they're really on top of their game. I only come across every so often, but I could tell those things are picked up pretty fast. The Star Wars collectors.
I saw a guy when, and Shadow will tell you this, when we were in Target, and there was a guy, he had like a stack of 10, and he was walking up to the counter, and Shadow looks, he says, like, man, this guy is out of his mind, dude. But when you see those deals, $5.99, and I believe they were I think he was troop building because I was like, man, that's a heck of a stock that Target had. But he literally had 10 figures stacked and was like doing a juggling act. And like, like even Shadow goes up to him like, brother, here, just take my cart. just, just take my cart, go up to the front and everything. So it's definitely right now is the time if you have, anybody that that loves any of the Star Wars Black series, anybody that loves classified, Transformers, any of those, even a lot of Motu. He-Man is all over the place, because I think there's like 5 or 6 different lines of that, and they're all like pretty much on clearance now. So if you can get to them now.
The He-Man line that doesn't sell is whatever that Netflix thing was they did.
Mm-hmm.
But just
well, no,
no
they
one
actually
wanted
had a
those
bunch
toys.
of classics at the Target that we went to. There's a bunch of classic Motus that were sitting on the shelf too, and we were like, man. So right now it's the time. If I know that all the toy YouTubers have been putting that up for several weeks now. There's still a lot of supplies out there. It's worth just driving down to your Targets or your WalMarts or your Ollie's. If we had those in Southern California, I would have absolutely zero money in my bank account. I can tell you that.
Well, when I was in that store, I was looking because they had like the Legends Build-A-Figure,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, "Damn, they have so many figures here," and I couldn't find like a complete Build-A-Figure set. I was like, "This doesn't make any sense." But whatever,
I will say the Star Wars. I've been impressed. I know they're like a take on like the retro figures, but the Book of Boba Fett figures are kind of cool. The Mando, like I saw a full Mando ship that you're paying an arm and a leg, it's full price. But I just like the box. Like we talked about stuff where you can't see some of the figure. When it comes to the classic, like Star Wars stuff, I don't mind it. Like just because the art's really cool. So there's a couple pieces. I hope it goes on clearance with like the new Ahsoka figures hit the shelves. I'll watch closely for some of those figures that I love to collect, but. Tons of Star Wars stuff. Just the clearance stuff is gone. The Chronicles of Indiana Jones collecting and Mr. Brantley. Any positives? It's been an uphill battle for you in the collection game.
Well, because of all of you guys and learning about the discount figures and seeing so many on the shelves, I actually just canceled my entire last wave of the figures that have not shipped yet, except for the Indiana Jones, because he's going to be hard to find. But the other ones, the Grail Knight, his father, Elsa, and for some reason... Antonio Banderas from the last movie, even though he's in it for like 4.5 minutes, he gets a figure. But I canceled all those because I guarantee you I'll find those discounted in a couple of weeks.
Or Shadow will.
That's true.
You will.
Shadow will.
I have a feeling they're going to be at Ollie's for about $2.99. So
Yeah.
we'll wait on Chet's phone call.
Look, even with him shipping it out to California, it's still cheaper to buy it in California.
Exactly. Now, I will say, outside of clearance toys, one of the things that I saw, I know we were trading texts back and forth. I haven't seen them in person, but the McFarlane Batman the Animated Series figures. Have you all seen these in real life yet? Because
I've been trying to find them.
They are awesome. There's some sexy toys there. What do you all think about that line? I mean, again, McFarlane's really stepped up the game. DC's really great, but specifically classic animated series. Are you all excited about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen them in person yet because if I did, you guys would get a text message of all of the ones that I bought. Like I literally have a card, and this is no joke. I have a credit card I use specifically for toy buying. And so that's how I monitor it. I pay it off every month, but I just literally am like, I'm using this card for like toys and bullshit. And if I run into some of these McFarlane, because some of these that I'm looking at for the animated series, I'm like, man, you just ripped that shit right off the cell.
Yes.
No joke. No joke.
Mm.
It's almost. It might actually be better, but it's almost better than the cartoon series that NECA does of the Ninja Turtles. But I think it probably actually might be better. Because these are unreal. Because literally out of the animated series, and I don't know if he's gonna do Batman Beyond, but if he does, I'm gonna get a Toby McGinnis figure real quick.
Well, I can tell you, I was looking at the stuff they were showing at the the Build-A-Figure series from the Toy Fair. The Build-A-Figure is the Condiment King, which I don't think I've ever seen that in figure format. So that's what actually was pretty good. But they also had
That is so random.
that
by
is
the way.
that is.
Does anybody remember? Like,
Very, very
Only
vaguely.
from the Lego Batman movie.
The Riddler!
Scarecrow.
Pizza delivery!
Bane.
Hello!
Two-Face.
We need that door open, baby.
Catwoman.
Meow meow, you're in. Meow meow.
Penguin, Crazy Quilt, Eraser, Polka Dot Man, Mime, Tarantula, King Tut, Orca, Killer Moth,
Orange Harriet.
Zodiac Master, Gentleman Ghost, Clock King, Calendar Man, Kite Man, Cat Man, Zebra Man,
And the Condiment King!
Okay, are you making some of those up?
Nope, they're all real. Probably worth the Google.
You know what? And
oh,
I only remember it from the actual. I've never seen that character in the DC comics or never paid attention to it. But when it did premiere on the animated series, I was like, "Who's this character?"
Ah, the big bad guy. I knew you'd catch up to me sooner or later. How I've relished this meeting. You, the dynamic Dark Knight, versus me, the conceptual Condiment King. Come, Batman. Let's see if you can cut the mustard. Quiet.
And it made me go back and actually read books with him in it, and I was like, "Oh, that actually is a real character." But they also have the and McFarlane does this better than almost everyone else does. You know, he gives you inexpensive products that surprise you a little bit. There's the Bat Cycle from the animated movie, and it lights up. And it comes with a removable head that has like Batman with his helmet on, his bike helmet. I'm like, okay, right. Again, McFarlane does great work, and every time he does, like, I'm gonna have to get like also Mr. Maddox here and get my own credit card personally devoted to that kind of stuff, because right now I'm just doing it right out of my bank account and just clearing it out every week, man. So.
I mean, I'll take the points, man. You just tell me what you want, that shit will show up at your house. Like, trust me. You know what I'm finding out? I think that these are all supposed to be on Target, right?
Yes, most of them are used.
yeah, but you can't order them. You can. I couldn't order them online. It was just like all grayed out box.
Walmart has like McFarlane Toys DC Direct Batman the Animated Series 4-pack action figures.
I saw that one. Mm-hmm.
That has Batman, the Joker, Harley Quinn, and Harvey Bullock. And apparently, I could get that in my house in like 2 days.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No. This new set, I think they premiered some of them at the Toy Fair, and they look fantastic. And of course, they did. You know, McFarlane's there. He's the best front man of any toy company out there, next to the gentleman Ace from Ramen Toys. Because tonight, Dr. Brentley and I were watching a live stream from one of our other YouTubers out there that had Ace, and he did the diorama, the sewer. Well, he doesn't. It's called the Musk. He doesn't call it the sewer that NECA did, but he's beat NECA at its own game, and this thing is a game changer. This modular system that he's built is fantastic, man.
What's interesting to me now is the popular Call of Duty Warzone video game.
Mm-hmm.
You recently could buy a Spawn skin for the game.
Mm-hmm.
I see Spawn figures popping up. Spawn versus Batman. Spawn. Is this a precursor to Spawn? Are we going to see Spawn again? I know we've talked about. Do you think there's going to be a film again? Is there a TV show? Is there? I just feel like this character has kind of lived on, and there hasn't been anything relatively recent other than the ongoing books. Does anybody really read Spawn anymore? But I'm just curious for your thoughts, because I've always wanted to see a better version of a Spawn movie. But how is Spawn still like thriving? How do people know thrive? Like, I'm blown away by it. So, what's your take on it?
You keep publishing it, it will keep surviving.
Yeah.
And so it's to the point of just persistence on McFarlane's end. I've been only time I read Spawn. I used to be an avid Spawn reader when it first came out, and now it's like anytime there's a milestone, whenever it hits like a 300 or a 350, I'll purchase that copy. But he's done a great job of keeping the character around for, I believe, 30 years now. You know, he's out there constantly pushing that character, and I even heard
30 years.
I think he's in Modern Warfare. If I didn't, I just saw an announcement that Spawn's in Modern Warfare. I'm like,
like the biggest video game on the planet, you could play as Spawn. Like, what the hell? Like, how does the young generation know Spawn? Like, that's what I'm confused about.
Video games,
right? Because like Spawn didn't have a video. That's what I'm saying. Is like,
well,
he
did have a video game, but I think it's because he keeps.
But how does like a 12-year-old know Spawn?
Spawn's been in Mortal Kombat. So
that's what, but like he's a marketing genius.
Yes, he is.
Because like Spawn, like how is he relevant still? Don't get me wrong, I think he's a cool ass character, but I'm just like, there's no movies, there's no TV series unless you go in the past, but yet there's figures, he's in games. Someone needs to like look at McFarlane and go, how the hell did you keep this character alive?
Tom McFarlane's persistent. That's the one thing you have to give with him, is that, even through his comic career, even through his toy career, even the lunacy of him buying baseballs for millions of dollars, he just has a way of just keeping himself relevant. And through that, I think that he is his best pitchman for Spawn. And I know he's been talking to Jason Blum about, getting the Spawn movie, and it's been going back and forth, and, he keeps trying, but make no mistake, Todd McFarlane is the reason why Spawn is relevant. It's not like in the case of Stan Lee, Spider-Man was more relevant sometimes than Stan Lee was, In this case, I truly believe that Todd McFarlane's not around. I don't know if Spawn's going to get that same kind of love, because you can tell that this is his singular character. He pushes that out. And I give him credit, because while the other Image co-founders have hundreds of different characters, he's pretty much stayed the course with Spawn, every now and then branching out for something. But, he's the ultimate pitchman. He's iconic for a reason, because people know his name and they know his character's name. They might not have seen his character, but they at least have heard of Todd McFarlane. So I give him credit for that, man.
Yeah.
Well, that's what happens when you name the company after yourself.
True. That works.
That's true. Any last thoughts on Spawn toys?
Well, I will say, I think we came up with a new segment, which is called Chet's Toys and Bullshit.
What toys and bullshit did Chet purchase this week?
Let's check out his credit card statement.
Yeah, we got to keep that quiet.
We don't need to look at that. We don't need to look at that yet.
We'll have
let's just pause, because it's hard to keep track of,
Maybe we should have Samuel Jackson pop in the back of the Capital One card.
I can't believe Spawn's 30 plus years. Damn, I'm old.
I know.
We're all old. But speaking of old, Star Trek Picard.
What a great segue.
So, Patrick Stewart wants a Picard movie at 83. Is this a joke? Is this possible? Is it worth like, what's going on here? Honest thoughts here. Is it even worth? I mean, shit, we got
3 seasons out of the Picard TV series, and
one of them was good.
Yeah, exactly. One of them was good.
No matter of fact, one of them was good. They all just suck.
I thought they left it off the series in a good place, and I just don't think they can come back from that if they do something else, to do a movie. Look, they had several films already on the screen, and the one thing that we know about the Star Trek Next Generation films, they almost always underperformed. There was maybe 1 or 2 great gems out of them, but other than that, they were not very interesting. And I know if you can blame Rick Berman at the time, who had the hands and the keys to it, but I just don't think that at this point, we're looking at Dr. Brentley and I was talking, and it's like, what, you're running 2 years into production? He's 85 when they start filming that. Cross your fingers, that gets done. I think they left it on a good spot. That last final season was just a good send-off. And I think if you're going to do anything for the Next Generation universe, maybe you start looking at the Voyager crews or Deep Space Nine, or some of the older, younger actors that's still around, other than Patrick Stewart, to be honest with you.
If you're going to do a Star Trek thing with the older characters, I think it should be sort of like an Avengers team up kind of a thing, where you take characters from Voyager, Deep Space Nine, and a couple from Next Generation, and you can do something, a giant galaxy wide threat, but have all these characters that have to get together and figure it out. But I mean, Picard, they don't need a movie. You're right. It ended great with the series. They don't need to touch it. They can only lose.
Do you think they should revise like maybe a TV series with like Chris Pine at the helm and kind of revisit the latest movie installments and go like a series format? Do you feel like Chris Pine and I know there's J.J. Abrams. We've read articles about what the future holds for him. We could spend a whole episode talking about that. But do you feel there could be a really great series come from those films that I thought were relatively good? Or do you think like you just need a fresh start and new folks? Because I think sometimes you're missing like you need like a big star to really branch out of like the Star Trek fans, Paramount. I think if you put like you need to, I think they have an opportunity to make it as big as Star Wars and the series, the Disney Plus stuff. They just don't have an anchor, like a big, powerful actor behind it. And that's what I'm asking. And maybe Chris Pine's not the person, but do you think it's worth visiting, putting someone behind this franchise to like make it just as popular?
I think the problem with the Star Trek franchise is not so much the star power, it's the executive power behind it. There's so many starts and stop projects. There's so many ones that are being kicked off of Paramount Plus. First of all, I think that they overextended their hand with Paramount Plus. Disney, has the foundation and the loyalty, but Paramount, I just don't think they have the same way. I think removing Star Trek off of actual standard television, that's not a wise move. I think you limit your audience. They don't have the Disney brand audience. So I think that's what's really hurting them, the executive decisions. I think 3 seasons of Picard was like when they had 2 underwhelming, that last season they should have done as 1 season, and that probably would have sufficed it for fans. I think Strange New Worlds is doing a really good job of like building the Star Trek lore from a time period that we haven't quite really paid attention to, the pre-Kirk series. So I think that they've got it. I just think taking it off of Paramount Plus and putting it maybe on CBS and getting more eyes and more focused on it, I think that will help them, other than or at least switching your game plan and removing Star Trek from Paramount Plus, maybe adding it to a Netflix or some place where there's a little bit more viewership, because I just don't think Paramount Plus has the viewers and the eyes that's able to get that franchise bigger than what they were when they were on standard syndication.
I think the main problem is they're going back to the same problem they had in the late 90s, which is they had 3 shows on the air. They had the Next Generation movies. And so people were getting a little bit tired of so much Star Trek, and they're doing the same thing. Let's run it into the ground, because they have 4 different shows now, I think. So, it's like they need to calm down, actually think out some of these stories a little better. And, if you're going to do Chris Pine and that crew, make it a movie, make it a big event, because the original crew, they had 6 movies, and those were pretty much, for the most part, well thought out and laid out, and the audience came with them.
You can't be talking about Undiscovered Country with that, right?
Undiscovered Country is great. It's the final frontier you want to avoid.
I don't know. I think there's 3 good Star Trek films, maybe 4, but I think you're right. I think it's overexposure, but I also think Paramount Plus is just, it's like, I know everyone wanted to have their own streaming channel, and we've seen that from all the others, and all of a sudden now I'm starting to see like cross-channeling of things that were exclusive on one channel. Now it's on Amazon Prime, or it's back on Netflix, and I think we're getting back to the reality of your own channel's not going to hold if you don't have the viewership to do that on, What do you think about it, Chet?
I'm gonna go with Dr. Brantley here. I think that it's very much like if you added scarcity to Star Trek, people would want to watch it. but you don't. You give all these. There's too many things to follow. Like, I go back and I watch like Next Generation, and I'm happy. Like it's great. It's a great show. I watched like the first episode of Picard. I thought it was fantastic. I've actually had the opportunity to meet him a couple of times. He was in the Apple store I worked at. I think Chris remembers that. But he like take the Star Trek movies, right? They were good, but like there's way too much hype behind any of the ones J.J. Abrams did, and it didn't hold up. It was okay. I don't think they were good. I could go back on my VCR and watch the VHS ones that are way better. I think the writing was a lot better. I think the writing stuck with the lore. I think it had the same style we were used to seeing on the TV shows. I love all the sub ones that came out after, right? Like, I think that each one of them has their own place in time. But where the problem is that you just give them all at once to try to see who watches what. And I'm surprised it hasn't had the Firefly effect, right? Like when Firefly came out, all intents and purposes, Firefly should still be on air, right? But they didn't air it right. They didn't air it in order, and everyone was confused as hell. They didn't know what was going on. But now you go back, you watch Firefly in order the way it was supposed to be aired, and you're like, this should still be on TV. But I think Star Trek is just like it's over flooded. It's like what in my opinion, Disney's doing with Star Wars to some extent, in terms of just like, cool, we're going to take everything everyone loves about Star Wars and just make as many freaking shows as we can, and not pay attention to the fact that while we're spending all this money on this shit, we're not making any money because no one's watching shit, and we're losing subscribers because we're not putting anything good out. We're just making stuff to make stuff. And I think that there's a point in time where people were just going to be like, I'd rather have quality than just like quantity.
One series in particular that just wrapped up is Ahsoka. And so I think we should jump into that a bit. Spoiler alert, everyone. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen it. The conclusion, episode number 8. Your thought as it wind down. We talked about it a couple episodes ago, the momentum building up into this point. First, just your general thoughts, and then also, where do you rank it in terms of the Star Wars TV series that have hit Disney Plus over the past several years? So, thoughts, gentlemen?
I thought I was a tad bit, I think, thrown off a loop for the end of Ahsoka. I was hoping it was going to be a kind of season 1 kind of conclusionary situation, but it seemed like they left it extremely open-ended. And I thought with Ray Stevenson being able to not come back, there's a plot hole in this that's going to require either recasting. It's going to have recasting. But I thought they things happened, but nothing really happened. And I was a little disappointed by the end. And I was like, it's like, okay, now we're going to have to wait till possibly a season 2 if we get a season 2. Chances are it's going to get a season 2. But it just threw me for a loop, man. I kept looking at my watch, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be unresolved, isn't it? So I was disappointed by that. I thought the storyline could have ended season 1 and then go into season 2, and really all it did was they kind of teased you at the end, like, guess what? You're gonna have to wait to season 2 to find out any resolutions to this. So that's what I was mostly disappointed about. I thought there was a couple of key lightsaber scenes that were pretty decent. It started slow, it ended a tad bit slow, and the middle was the best part of the entire series. I would put, if I'm ranking this, it's better than Book of Fett, but I don't see it any better than Andor or The Mandalorian. So I think it's like the 3rd rated Star Wars show, because I thought, and be honest with you, I think Andor is probably number 1, and Mandalorian is maybe 1A, 1B, but I think Ahsoka is like after that, and then you see the others at Book of Fett. I think it was on par with Book of Fett, to be honest with you, a lot of stuff. So that's my thoughts on it.
I mean, all they accomplished really in the whole series was Ezra and Thrawn switched places with Ahsoka and Sabine. And now they're in the, now Thrawn's in the new, our Star Wars universe that we know, and now Ahsoka and Sabine are stranded in this other place. And that's about it. They teased, Thrawn's coming back with some cargo. We don't know what it is yet. Ray Stevenson's character, Balin, he's teased a thing, and he spent all this time, and we really we weren't with him very long, and we don't really know what he was up to, except he's looking at something off in the distance. So they just set up questions in 8 episodes, and it's like, what were we doing here except to introduce these characters into live action? That's about it.
The zombie stormtroopers were cool.
Yeah.
So I will say that. Hadn't seen that, so that was pretty neat. I think the lightsaber battles were cool. I think overall, my thoughts on the series was introduction of a really cool character we've talked about previous episodes in Balin. I like at least where it may go, which is like, it sounds to me not really being vested into deeply the Star Wars lore, but it sounds like he is seeking the balance of dark versus light. Like at the end of it, which is a kind of cool, like where he's headed. I don't know where that's going to go. And obviously he's passed, so they'll have to recast it. But I think that was really cool. I think the way it was shot, I think was probably some of the coolest aspects of Star. Like I think it was really the way it was filmed. I think Dave Filoni does a really great job in capturing the Star Wars universe, the essence. But in summary, I felt like it was like, look at like the animation that we've done, and look how true we can make it in film, like in the like make it real. Like it was almost like it wanted to do that more than anything else. Rather than like really compelling storytelling, it was like trying to appease the fans of the animated series that like we're staying 100% true to it, and look what we've done. And I think you probably alienated a lot of people that are not as close to it. The general audience that was kind of confused. If you didn't watch it, you're like, what's this and what's that? I'm watching it with my wife. I've seen the animated stuff, but she had like, what, huh? Like there's a lot of questions, and you have to really, really be a Star Wars fanatic. You didn't need to do that with The Mandalorian. I mean, there were some things, some Easter eggs and some characters if you hadn't watched previous Star Wars stuff. Same thing with the Book of Fett. Same thing with Andor. There's no question Mandalorian season 1 and 2, Andor, I think they're all good. I would say if I'm ranking it, I would say Mandalorian 1 and 2, Andor, this series, Mandalorian season 3, and then Book of Fett. Like that's how I would rank it. But I think overall it was entertaining. But I think to all of your points, it just kind of fell a little bit flat. And it wasn't like I'm excited for more. It was like, that's it. Like the cliffhanger was kind of, yeah. So
well, I think they kill it because now we know we're probably going to wait 2 years to see this because they're not going to, unless the actors all square away, the writers all square away, they work 24/7 for the next several months. So we're looking at a 2-year delay in seeing Ahsoka again. And that's the worst part about it, because by the time we get back to that, you're going to forget, most of the series anyways. They take it the same thing with The Mandalorian. They did that. One season came out and the second season came out, and then I think the third season took like 2 or almost 3 years, right? It was a while.
Yeah,
and
I mean, Grogu was like 48 years old by the time the season 3 came along.
I think that anticipation and the length of that time, I think that's a discouraging factor. Is that these shows for 8 episodes, it takes you 2 years to knock out 8. And, it's going to be hard to capture audiences like that. But I'm sucking up Mr. Maddox's time, so go ahead, brother.
No, you ain't sucking it up. I'll let you in on a little secret. Purposely still haven't watched it because I wanted to get to this podcast to find out if I should watch it, and it just proves my point that Disney can't make anything good ever. Because like I know that Ahsoka got good in the middle. Like it was epic to see that stuff, and then at the end, it's like reading a Stephen King book, man. It's all fantastic, and at the end, it's all shit because his wife writes it. Like, it's just not the same thing. It's like you go in and it's like, oh, this is great. They take all these characters and they get all the fanboy wet dreams because we all want to see this shit. And then it's just like they just give the fuck up. Even when there's not writer strikes, they just give the fuck up. And they're just like, man, at least we got them to watch it. And it's like, yeah, well, look at your Disney Plus numbers, dipshits. Like, that, we don't care. You know, like, I don't think, like, Disney is on their way to, like, encouraging piracy of their films because people don't want to pay for Disney Plus to be disappointed, to know that they're going to be disappointed like we all are for the next 2 years, wondering if anything good's going to come out of what we just spent time watching. And don't get me wrong, it's awesome to see this stuff come to, like, live action, and we're getting to the point where it's like it can actually kind of keep up with, like, animated. But it's just like I have an issue when I'm spending my time to, like, watch something only to be let down. And the first time I ever experienced this, by the way, which was owned by ABC, which is a company of Disney, was with Lost. And when I had to watch what they did to Lost, I was like, you wasted how many years of my life to give me this end of Lost? And I even came back after skipping some seasons because you guys got stupid. And that's all. And that's all they did with this one is like, yeah, it's great. Like, just a great character. Like, it's a great run. It's like, it's ideal. But it's like, if we go back to what we were talking about like a few podcasts ago, like, that's why literally one of my favorite Star Wars movies is Rogue One. It's like, yeah, I didn't know I gave a shit about the stuff that happened in between the two Star Wars movies. But now that I saw Rogue One, I'm like, this is like one of the best espionage spy films I've ever seen in my entire life.
I think Andor also did a good job of, like, capitalizing on the same way. I just believe that, you know, while I think Dave Filoni is a great successor to George Lucas, but he is an animation director, and there's a lot of flaws that happen in animation. I think the main problem that's happening with the Disney Plus shows and most of any other shows on streaming is that they basically open-ended stories. Just end one season with one season and then move on to another season. Make every season a climactic. But what we're doing is we have that whole kind of like, okay, it's like when we were watching conventional television. And at the end of like May, they were like, okay, well, we'll be back in September. But that's not the case. We're going to be going through like 3 or 4 Septembers before we see again.
Well, but it's because that's because of how much everything costs to do.
Of course,
like back then, it's like Magnum PI will be back in September. It's like, oh, I'll just use the same old shit and just dress the same actors up and make them run the opposite way in Miami. Like but like now it's like you said, there's just too much. There's too much time in between for people to like stay attached. Like I'm not going to stay attached. It's too far in between.
I think they may have a diabolical plan behind it all, and that is to put so much tiny details of Star Trek lore in there that in the meantime, before season 2, you have to go back and watch all the Clone Wars and watch all the Rebels episodes.
Wait, hold on. You said Star Trek.
I mean Star Wars.
Yeah. Star Wars, yeah, whatever. Star Trek's better now. Now, and think about this, right? The season 3 to season 4 of Star Trek: The Next Generation, they had the best cliffhanger I think I've ever seen, which is Picard is a Borg, and they say, "Okay, well, we can't save him. We gotta blow him up. All right, fire. Boom. To be continued." It's like, oh shit.
Yeah, but then September the show came back.
Yes, but also, right, you are anticipating it. It built up to a satisfying climax where even if for some reason they stopped there, you could be like, "Oh God, what happened?" You know, and you could still be with that. Ahsoka, essentially, like, everyone's okay with what happened, and we're just in different places now. And, you know, there wasn't any end story point.
They should just end
the Sopranos.
They should have just ended it with like a husband and wife hugging at the sunset of Tatooine, just like
and then the Earth blows up.
It blows up. Just
No.
like,
They
you
would
know,
have
with
they
the-
would have they would have gotten more out of it if the end of the episode was just the two Ahsoka and what's his nuts like just show up, and it's like a camera pans to her, then it pans to him, and then both their lightsabers come out, and then it cuts to black.
Yeah.
yeah.
That
Or
then you got people there like, wait, what am I watching? Because like that's what they did in the animation.
Mm-hmm.
there's only one payoff here that works.
My
I know
cameras
some
went
people are
crazy.
talking Luke Skywalker and others are talking Balin School or whatever. I want to see an epic, like, end game battle between those little turtle creatures and Ewoks. A full-fledged 500-person Ewok battle and these little turtles would be awesome to see.
Ewoks are kicking their ass.
If they deliver that, I'm in.
I think the turtles could like build a ship to go to the Ewoks galaxy. I don't think the Ewoks are making it out there.
And how the fuck does a super star destroyer not disintegrate a space whale?
I don't
I mean,
understand.
I was confused.
Because the lasers, they're not meant for biomatter. They're meant for like metal. It's like if you got whale blubber in space, you're safe.
This is like the
Yeah.
Shadowe Crew Star Wars definition now.
Yeah.
I think that about wraps up Ahsoka, and I think the overall perspective is, it was entertaining, it was okay, but it could have ended better, and we'll see what season 2 holds 5 years from now. That's the same thing I'm experiencing. I just picked up watching The Witcher season 3. And I don't know what the hell happened 5 years ago when that Witcher 2 aired. So I'm lost. And I'm like, I'm not rewatching season 2. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
and that's the problem when things are delayed. It's just like I don't have, and I'm sorry, the 5-minute like recap doesn't
do anything.
I'm not going back and watching the anime. Like, so I hope it's sooner than 2 years, but I think you're spot on, Mr. Storm. Maybe not just with Star Wars, but these other series. Like, what I think it's going to impact that significantly in terms of storytelling, especially the complex ones that require you to watch a lot of stuff. So we'll stay tuned. But hey, good cast. We appreciate you all tuning in once again for another episode of the Shadowe Crew Podcast here on the Shadow Nose channel. Before we adjourn and recap some things, I'll kick it over to you, Mr. Storm, for our amazing sponsor of the podcast.
As we go again and everything, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Toys vs. Games in Wilmington, California. Yes, it is the Shadowe Crew's choice of store. And actually, the person that the channel's named after, Shadow. Shadow does know where the best prices on a mom and pop store. If you're getting tired of the Targets and the Walmarts, not the Ollie's, because the Ollie's are pretty good, but you can get those same prices, same situations over at Toys versus Games. And they've got assortment. It's not just, in the titling, like it says, Toys versus Games. They have great action figures and toys throughout the time, but they got a bunch of also video games and hard to find stuff. So if you got a chance, they're on Instagram, but if you're in Wilmington, California, it's better to go there in person. You might just see Shadow there. And once we've done our sponsor, again, thank you, Toys vs. Games, for sponsoring us. We got some updates on the channel. I know a lot of people has been asking me, because I get texts and things like that, asking me, where's Shadow at? Shadow has been compiling a bunch of episodes, and he's been in the trenches, and he's been at actually Toys vs. Game filming stuff as well. So you're going to see some stuff from him live in location at Toys vs. Games as well. But he's been filming a bunch of stuff. He's going to be posting videos routinely back again. The Wrestling with the Tech Master. Tech Master has actually went through and actually done a brand new studio setup at home. So I'm expecting the green screens and some great stuff from him. He's been like hyping me up with all the tech that he's been buying, so he can make sure his wrestling recaps are getting on. And that's one of those things that we should see probably before the end of the month. He'll be back on again. We've had a great series by the great free agent to the Shadow Nose channel, Mr. Chet Maddox. It's called Unbox. If you have not seen that video, it's a very fantastic video. I do say so myself. Looking forward to more Unbox, or maybe he does rebox it. So I can't wait to see that. And a new series and a new series called The Retrospect with Dr. Brentley and Mr. Storm. where we review movies that maybe you haven't actually had the time to see, or obviously don't want to watch. We're gonna do the retrospect. It takes a subject matter and several films, and we kind of dissect the films and the similarities with it. We decided to do a Halloween theme, so we reviewed for retrospect number one all of the Mummy films. So that starts with the Boris Karloff one all the way down to Tom Cruise's. So the second one's going to be the Wolfman, a series of films, Hammer or whoever. The third one's going to be Frankenstein, and I think that's week number 3 of October. And week number 4, we're going to actually have 2 specials. One's going to do Dracula because he's the king of monsters, and then we're going to do the best monster mashups, the best combination of those. So that's a new series that will be debuting on the channel. And whenever Mr. Calkins wants his own segment, we'll be debuting that on the channel as well. So that's all the updates that I got so far for us.
I was thinking about it, similar to what you just said about like watching films in retrospect.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if there's a segment where you force yourself to watch really terrible films in punishment. And there's a movie coming out called Five Nights at Freddy's that's hitting October. That looks fucking horrendous. It's like Chuck E. Cheese. It's like Chuck E. Cheese robots kill people based off a video
that movie
game.
is going to.
I would love to see.
Box office.
But it's going to be really bad. But it'll probably make a lot of money. So I'm thinking about it something. But yeah, Chet. Maybe I think there's something on board games as well. I think as I walk through the Target aisles, there's just shit tons of new board games and deck building games and card games. That industry has exploded. Those aisles, it used to be, if you remember, Chet, maybe a couple aisles. Now it's a full damn section full of like things.
When we started that whole thing with board games, it wasn't even an aisle. It was like a quarter of an aisle.
Yeah,
now it's just crazy. Like the whole back wall.
It's crazy. I do want to say one thing on the Techmaster return. For those of you who may not be into wrestling, I will flag, for those of you who don't know, is that WME, William Morris Endeavor Agency, who represents the who's who of Hollywood stars, now under one umbrella, TKO, owns both UFC and WWE. And so I think there's going to be a hell of a lot of interesting things happening in that world.
Oh, yeah.
So don't just tune in for like wrestling news. I think there's already a lot of things. There's new competition, AEW, WWE. I think we're going to see Dwayne Johnson's on TV now. Mm-hmm. We're seeing a lot more overlap. So I would just stay tuned. I think the next 12 to 18 months are going to be huge in the wrestling business. And I think that partly because of that merger. So again, you don't have to be a diehard wrestling fan, but I think there's some really cool updates happening. Stay tuned because I think that industry is going to change pretty dramatically.
Yeah. And like I said, the Techmaster is always on the cusp of everything being great. And the best thing about the wrestling with the Techmaster is he basically, if you missed anything, he's got it. And you're able to not have to watch, like we were saying, 4 or 5 shows or something to get things done. He just gives you a great recap of what we really need. So I give him credit, and I can't wait to see a segment pop back up.
Well, lots of new content. Again, thanks for listening in. Please like, comment, subscribe. It helps the channel grow. For Mr. Brantley, Dr. Brantley, Mr. Storm, and Chet Maddox, the one and only, I'm Chris. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Later.
Yeah.
Adios.